They're hard and a really big mind shift that has helped me in such a huge way. Okay, so are we ready? Check, check. All right, let's get started here. I gotta move sorry guys, this is your behind the scenes look at this record. Gotta make sure all my windows are all where I want them to be. Okay. Is that gonna work? Okay. All right, welcome guys. Have you been living in a deficit of friendship since mom life began? Anyone feel me here? Have you ever thought, what's wrong with me? I don't have close friends. What's wrong with me? What if I told you the biggest block to your personal growth and confidence is feeling that you're alone and that no one gets it? This is true in every single situation we can encounter in life. When we feel that we're alone in that situation, it's so debilitating. And so if you get nothing else from this 3-part series on mom friendships that I'm so excited to share with you today, I want you to know that if nothing else, you're not alone. And maybe if you're feeling stuck, this might be why, is because you feel alone. So if you felt lost, left out, uninvited in your friendships, you're not alone. And that isn't the end of the story. I was talking with a client the other day. Her name's Kaylee, and she said something so beautiful. She said, I see this break in the clouds, not a finish line because there's never a finish line, just beauty. See, isn't it true sometimes that we don't have all the answers, but if we reframe the question, it can really, really help. And I found this to be so true in my approach to friendships in my adult life. I'm calling them mom friendships, but what I really mean is adult female friendships. They can be tough. They can be a puzzle. They can be really confusing. And I'm going to get to all of this in this 3-part series on mom friendships. I'm going to go deep, guys. Today, I'm going to explain why it's so hard. 5 reasons it's super hard to find mom friendships that last. Next week, I will share the breakthrough mind shift that will give you peace with your relationships. You know, what if you could approach your mom friendships in a different way that made you feel content and at peace with where they're at today? Instead of being desperate, sitting in a grounding that you are exactly where you need to be. This is something I've grown into. It's taken me a while, but I'm finally there. It's really just a simple pivot in how you think about friends that will change how you approach your friendships. And it's a mind shift that's personally given me so much freedom as a friend and as a person to where I can let go of where my friendships are at today and know that everything is exactly as it's supposed to be. Easy to say, hard to live out, but I'm going to draw you a roadmap and take you there with me in this series. I'll also share 5 truths that will change how you look at mom friendships. And in the 3rd part of this series, in 2 weeks, I'll give you what you really want. I know you want the steps. How to make mom friends. How do you do it? This changes with every chapter of mom life. Baby years are one thing. Toddler years are different. School years, teenage years. I'll go through all of it for each chapter in the 3rd part of this series. I'll also share what to do with the pain of losing a good friend. It's hard. It's messy. It hurts. They didn't pass away, but it feels like a death, feels like a divorce. I've been there. It sucks. So now what? I'll lead you through the steps of what's next when you're heartbroken and you're just broken. Now what? Hang on, we'll get to all of that in this series. But before I get to that, I just want to say thank you for being here. She Just Glows, the podcast, has been such a fun time, and I'm so glad you're here and that it's serving you. My name is Janie Porter, and I've been writing on shejustglows.com for about 8 years. It was sort of my outlet during the years when my kids were little, and I focused there on getting into the nitty-gritty of motherhood and finding the deeper inspiration behind what we do every day. and always reminding you that you're not alone. And I am a mom of 4. I'm a wife. And in the last 6 months, I started life coaching through She Just Glows. It's been so much fun. And so I'm so glad that you're here on the podcast, which is just another twist in this beautiful path that I'm on called life. Growing, doing new things, trying new things. Some are terrifying, but it's all worth it in the end. If you want to know more about working with me one-on-one, go to shejustglows.com. Okay. So let me start by saying I don't have a best friend. You may look at me and say she's confident, she's outgoing, she's funny, or maybe you don't think I'm funny. Maybe you think I'm really obnoxious and annoying. Maybe that explains why I don't have a best friend. Oh my goodness. But I don't have a best friend. I don't have close friends who I check in with every day. I don't have someone in my city who's like my person, who I, do life with. I speak with my sister and my sister-in-law on a Marco Polo thread throughout the day. But other than that, I'm kind of a lone wolf. I'd have a best friend, we'd get in a fight. I'd have a best friend, they'd move away. I'd have a best friend, the husbands don't like each other. And I've struggled with that. I kept thinking, what's wrong with me? And it was so validating because I was talking with one of my close friends the other day about this. And she said, same. I just kept thinking, what is wrong with me? That I don't have this one person who is my closest friend. Is it possible that that isn't really the goal? Why does it need to be the goal as a middle-aged woman today to have a best friend? For me, it was sort of a prerequisite to happiness, I think, for a long time. And then I came to realize that just wasn't the case. And I'm going to get into why as we get into this series, because it's so good and it's so important. Maybe the foundation that you're operating on when you think about your mom friendships is the only thing that's off. I'll get to all of that. I've struggled with all of this for so long, but I'm at peace with it now. And I'm going to explain why as we go through this series. I've seen the start and stop of so many friendships since becoming a mom, and it's frustrating. It's so frustrating, right? You make friends, they move away. You make friends, the husbands don't get along. You make friends and you parent differently, or their kids are brats. And you're just like, I don't want to be around this. You make friends and COVID stuff makes things weird, and suddenly you don't relate anymore. Friends come and go. And it makes me think, is there something wrong with me? Am I an impossible friend? Why don't I have stable, decades-long friendships like my mom does? My mom's close friends are the same people she was close with when I was a baby. That was 40 years ago. Why isn't that the case now for me? What's wrong with me? You guys tracking with me here? There are a few great reasons why it's really hard to have mom friends today. And what you deal with day to day is so far from what your mom and grandmother did when they were in our phase of life. So 5 reasons it's hard to make mom friends. First one, I moved away. Like many of you, I don't live in the same city where I grew up. Maybe you do, but most people that I know today in my circle, which admittedly might not be an accurate representation of the entire globe, but I think a lot of us who were born in the early 80s were encouraged to go to college. And a lot of times that meant moving out of the city we were born and raised in. I would venture to guess, at least in my upbringing, I'll share from my upbringing. It may not be the same for you, but I think it might be. In my upbringing, my mom didn't even think of going to college, So she did raise her family in the same general area where she was raised. It's just different now. A lot of us went to college. A lot of us moved away for jobs. We live in a world where a dual income household is the norm. That means the woman works. That means that there are more chances to be moving for jobs. So if your friendships aren't lasting, or it's not the people that you've been friends with since you were a baby, don't beat yourself up. Maybe you moved away and you had to start over. Maybe your best friend moved away and you stayed in your hometown, but a lot of people left. The second reason it's so hard to make mom friends, oh my gosh, so many things have to line up for the friendship to work. This isn't just you coming to the friendship, it's your whole family and their whole family, right? So it's one thing if you like the friend, but then if the husbands don't line up, it's fine. Obviously, you can still have a friendship with someone where the husbands aren't best friends, but it's not going to be the same kind of best friend relationship, perhaps. All of these other criteria have to be met to have a super, super close friendship in our adult life. Maybe not all of them for you, but some of them. Your parenting is probably needing to be in alignment with this other person. The kids, the COVID, the core values. Before, in your 20s and maybe your 30s, if you didn't have kids yet, it was like, do you like this woman? Yes or no? Is she cool? Yes or no? Now it's a whole checklist. Yes, I like this woman. I don't know if the husbands will get along. I don't know if we share the same core values. We do parent the same. It's this whole, and you may not think of it consciously because it's pretty obnoxious when you really list it out like I am, but it's facts. You may not be, going through this checklist in your mind, but there is a checklist. Oh my gosh, this microphone. Our therapist said, I thought this was so interesting. Our therapist said, you make your real, true friends before you have kids. They know exactly who you are. And all those other layers of life haven't come into play. I think she said you make your real, true friends in your 30s. I thought that was so interesting. And I do feel that the friends I made in my 30s truly get me for me, not the whole package. You see the difference there that's happening? So if you're finding it hard to make new friends, realize that that's because there are so many more layers of life in play. And maybe that's okay. The third reason it's really hard to make mom friends in 2022, we have our phones. What do you need? I don't need to walk the block and talk to neighbors. I'm at home talking on Marco Polo to my sister across the country. What I get out of my phone and connection, for better or worse, replaces my need for intimate contact with a female companion in real life in my city today. It's great in some ways. I can keep in touch with my sister, who's like my soulmate. She lives in California. My sister-in-law in Seattle. My best friend in Los Angeles. My best friend from college, I should say. I don't need someone day to day though, right? So maybe the fact that you're able to be connected with those you love who aren't in your city is exactly why it's been so hard for you to make lasting friendships where you live now. Fourth reason it's hard, you don't have that much left to give. I mean, friends can get close maybe, but not too close, right? Sometimes. If you find yourself in a situation where you have a really, really tight best friend, like I did a few years ago, and it ended. And it was sad and it was hard. But I had to ask myself, is what this friend is offering me in terms of emotional connection, is it taking away my husband's role in supplying that to me? Right? Is it possible that having a friend that you, quote, do life with would actually be replacing your husband in some way? I'm just asking. This may not all relate to you, but I'm just asking the question. The fifth reason it's hard to have mom friends, it's just hard. It's hard. meeting people, being confident, putting your best face forward every day. It's hard. It's exhausting. Even to someone outgoing like me, it's downright exhausting. You know, for so long, I kept thinking that with each new friendship in the city we live in now, it would be different. It would last. But then the cycle keeps coming up. They move away, kids change schools, or we just grow apart. And here I am, back at square one. You guys know that quote from Charlotte in Sex and the City? I'm exhausted. Where is he? She says something like, I've been dating for 15 years. I'm exhausted. Where is he? Sometimes I find myself saying the exact same things about mom friendships. I'm exhausted. I'm tired of making friends. I'm 40 years old. When will it end? It will end. It will end because next week I'm going to be sharing the mind shifts that will bring you peace in exactly where your friendships are at today. I'll see you then. All right. All right, guys. Okay, so what do you do now? You want mom friends, you don't have any, or yours moved away, or something happened. Today, I'm going to share some huge mind shifts that I've personally had about friendships, and it's changed everything for me. It's given me so much freedom and peace in my relationships, and I want to share that and uncover that for you today. So if you haven't listened to part 1 of this 3-part series, go back to last week. I'm not going to recap anything, just going to keep going. Today, I'm going to uncover 6 truths I've learned about mom friendships. They're basically 6 mind shifts that will bring you peace no matter where your friendships are at. Because if you've been thinking for all of your mom life, why don't I have close friends? What's wrong with me? Maybe like me, you've been operating in some ways from a deficit of close friendships for your entire mom life. And you keep asking yourself, why? Why don't I have a close, lasting circle of friends? What's wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with you. Last week, I shared the 5 reasons mom friendships are really hard. And I hope that it made you feel seen, understood, and not alone. So let's get into these 6 mind shifts that you can apply no matter where your friendships are today. First one, you got to realize, guys, people are in your life for a time. They come in and out of your life for a reason. Chapters begin and end, and friendships are constantly changing throughout life. Warm up to the idea that you might be in different cycles of different friendships your whole life, and maybe that's okay. Maybe the assumption going in of I need to have a close friend at all times who lasts forever and ever and never moves or has any life situation that takes her away from me, maybe that's not realistic. Maybe that's not what's been designed for your life. Maybe all of life is just different cycles of different friendships. Is that okay with you? Losing a good friend is hard. It's messy. It hurts. For me, it hurt deeply. I remember bawling to my life coach at the time. And yes, I am a life coach and I have a life coach. If you're interested in working one-on-one, you can head to shejustglows.com for all of the information on that. It's in the episode notes. For me, when I've lost friendships in a painful way, I have to be at peace with knowing that what I had with that friend for those 2 years is meaningful, relevant, and real. As my life coach explained to me, the fact that we are no longer close does not invalidate anything that happened during the time that we were friends. We had a wonderful friendship, but now it's time to move on. Something I also found to be really hard when I lost this friend was I got to see her. I got a front row seat to watch her dive into new friendships. She lived in my city. We had all mutual friends, not some of the same mutual friends. All of our mutual friends were mutual friends. All of our friends, do you know what I mean? Everyone I knew was a mutual friend, right? And I got a front row seat at watching her jump into new friendships right in front of me. And my life coach kept reminding me that no matter what friendship this new friend has moved on to, it doesn't invalidate anything about the friendship that she and I had before. Here's another way this plays out for me now. When I have friends who, for some reason, don't invite me to something, and I know I wasn't invited, and I hear about it, I can choose to remind myself that the friendship I have with these friends isn't invalidated, doesn't lack value or beauty just because I wasn't invited to something. It took me a long, long time to get there. But this is where it starts. Can you let the seasons flow? For me, I had to learn to not be attached to this one person. There's a reason the season is changing and I needed to be open to it, but it was really hard. One more note on that, if you've had a falling out with someone, I talk with clients about this all the time because there's a lot of worry whether it's divorce or a broken friendship or a broken relationship. There's a lot of worry over, will everyone think it's my fault because they don't know the whole story? Here's what I can tell you about that. People are smart. People figure it out. Time will expose the truth. You don't need to state your case and be in everyone's ear. You know what happened. And don't forget, people are very smart and very observant. The second truth I've learned about mom friendships, just trust. Trust that there is a reason your friendships are flowing exactly as they are. That friend might be taken out of your life because it might be time to make room for a new friend, a new life change you have coming up around the bend. It might be to protect you from something bad. There might be a new friend out there who really needs someone just like you. And if you were still entrenched in this old friendship that for some reason has been taken away from you, you would never have the perspective to seek out this new friend who needs you more. Isn't that a cool way of thinking about it? Maybe you don't have a person to, quote, do life with because that person needs to be your husband. Maybe you've been thinking about it all wrong. And that leads to my third truth. I love this. What if what you have to offer a friend is so good that someone else needs it and room had to be made that you wouldn't have done yourself? What if what you have to offer is so good that someone else needs it and room had to be made that you wouldn't have done yourself? I see other people blossoming in female friendships, and it's hard. You always see the friendship and you think you are uninvited and you don't have that. I remember pleading with God, not to be overly dramatic, but I really felt that there was such a huge black abyss, the most unignorable void in my life. And it was a deficit of a close friend. I pleaded with God, why? Why don't I get to have a close friend? Why don't I get that in my life? Over and over, I'm not able to achieve that in a lasting way. I never thought I would say that out loud because I think it's something I carry a lot of shame about or something. Why don't I have a close friend that lasts? What's wrong with me? I got the answer. I got the answer after pleading with God and literally bawling on my pillow for weeks, maybe longer. He said, because that's not what I want for you right now. You know, it's really crazy to think about what has been brought to my life through my, quote, deficit of friendship. Now, I wouldn't say I'm like a lonely person or a loner, but like I said in the first episode of this 3-part series, I don't have a close friend in the city I live in, like someone I check in with every day or even every week. I used to feel really insecure about that because to me, something that I thought was magically on the list of things you need in life to be having a good life was a best friend. To me, I thought that was on the list. I've realized now it's not on the list of what I need to have a wonderful, full, joyful, and thriving life. You know what I realize now? Having a friendship where I was checking in several times a day with one person would have never allowed me to be present for my 4 children and husband. My family's grown. Their needs have grown. They never stop, you know? Oh my gosh, and summer's here. What are we going to do for the next 2.5 months, guys, right? You know what else? Not only do I have extra time and focus for those in my family because of the fact that I don't have an amazing, beautiful, blossoming friendship with one female. When that important friendship for me ended, I firmly believe one of the reasons that happened was so that I would have the bandwidth to do the kind of work that I do now. Joy coaching with my full, amazing, dazzling client load, this work that I absolutely love, and I feel I am living out my purpose every day, and there is no greater feeling than that. There is no way I would have had the bandwidth to also have a best friend that I'm checking in with throughout the day. No way. Maybe my deficit of friendship is a gift because it allows me to walk into my life of purpose and joy, to which I was holding the direction book for something totally different. The 4th thing I want you guys to think about on that note, maybe you not having a best friend is not about what you don't have. Maybe it's about an abundance of what you do. I was talking to another friend. She has 4 kids also. Her kids are a good 5 years older than mine, so I look to her as a mentor. What's it like? What's it like when your oldest is 15? I remember a few years ago, she told me, when you have 4 kids, you're not trying to like hang out with other families. Not that you don't, but it's not like, oh, it's the weekend. What family are we going to hang out with? You're not trying to like schedule play dates. We just hang out together. She said there's plenty of time to hang out with those other families. Your teenagers are going to want to hang out with their friends tomorrow. It feels like, right? She's like, we don't have the bandwidth to have all these plans with other families. We just hang out us most of the time. That's what we do too in our family now. Maybe you're not doing life with another friend because you're doing life with your husband. I was talking to another friend recently. She also said, I don't have a best friend either. What's wrong with me? I've always wondered that. And I thought, oh, I'm so glad I'm doing a podcast on this because it's not just me. She said, I don't need it though. I'm so close with my siblings and husband. Again, What if you not having a best friend is not about what you don't have, but an abundance of what you do have? Something I love to say with my daughter, and I truly feel it from my soul. We always say, best friends forever. See, because I don't have an adult best friend, she gets that dazzling title of mommy's best friend. I love being able to say to her, you're my best friend. We have so much fun together. She's only 4. I hope it's the beginning of a beautiful, beautiful relationship and friendship. Mom-daughter relationships are tough, but what a beautiful thought that my daughter can be my best friend and I can be that to her. That's what I talk about when I talk about the bandwidth by what's not in your life, the margin that creates for what you actually want. Maybe your lack of a best friend highlights abundance in your life, a thriving relationship with your sister, a good marriage, not a perfect marriage, but a good marriage, a mom who is there for you, a dad who is there for you, a cousin, a daughter. Stop focusing on what you don't have in a friend and look at what you do have in the other relationships in your life. Maybe that's exactly where you're supposed to be. Oh, number 5, I've been waiting to tell you about this. Such a powerful concept that I've only recently really zeroed in on. Stop chasing people. About 15 months ago, I woke up one morning with a horrible hangover and I said, I'm so done with this life and I'm not going to drink today. I didn't know how long that would last. And it's been a rocky road, but I haven't drank for about 15 months. I've wanted to sometimes. I would say the first 3 to 4 weeks were the toughest, and then it just got so easy. Because there's nothing better than waking up feeling great every day. Well, something that's happened a few weeks into my alcohol-free journey is I started listening a little more in friendships. You know, when you stop drinking, there's a lot of noise around, well, what about the drinking friends? Are they still going to want me around? Are they still going to invite me? Oh my gosh, maybe they'll drop me. I was very confident that I wouldn't get dropped because my close friendships, we did drink together, but it wasn't all about drinking. And the other people, I thought I was still fun enough to be invited. And that did happen for the first few months. And as my journey continued, I started listening more. I started not feeling the need to always be the one calling, texting, planning, and scheduling. I just sort of let myself off the hook with that. I don't really know. I don't think it was like a conscious choice. It was just, I'm not going to keep scheduling stuff, but I'd love to be invited. I started realizing that some of these friendships where I had been initiating almost everything, some of those people had never once invited me to their house. I'd invited them to mine 10, 20, 30 times. And this is not a tit for tat conversation at all. But you have to ask yourself, if you've had this person or family over dozens of times and never once been invited to their house, I had to ask myself, it smells like I'm chasing this friend, you know? Stop chasing people. Neutrally, I'm able to let go of those friendships. Not that I want to say goodbye or I don't want to speak to the people again, but I'm able to let go of performing, of chasing, of proving. This isn't something that comes from anger. It's total neutrality. If they invite me somewhere, I would love to go. And I will invite them here and there. But I would love for it to be more mutual. You know, there's a real grounding that comes when you can look at your life today and your relationships today and say, what's meant for me will find me. And I don't need to chase anyone. So I don't chase people anymore. And you know what's happened in this process? It's been a little painful. I've cried about it, I'll admit. But in that margin, there's space for new friends. Maybe the friends who, when you stop chasing the cool kids, right? When you stop chasing that person that you're trying to perform and finally be cool enough to be her friend, maybe that creates space for that other person who's been on the periphery of your life for a long time, who reaches out every month or so, is thinking of you. You just don't have the bandwidth, you don't have the time, you don't have the interest, and you just keep that person at arm's length. Well, guess what? That's more of a mutual friendship than what you're doing with the other people. What I love about letting friendships go, not meaning I want them to end, just meaning I'm going to let it go and let it flow. I don't need to control it. I don't need to force people to hang out with me. If they want to hang out with me bad enough, they'll text back and want to plan something too, right? But in letting go of that need to perform, control, and chase, I have the freedom to pour my amazing energy into people who really want it. Remember that your offer is so good I mentioned above? Your offer is too good to be chasing down the sale. Your offer is so good, the sale will come to you. The friend will come to you. Do you believe that? If you don't, I don't blame you. If I had heard this about 5 years ago, I would have said, that's a bunch of crap. I would never have any friends if I wasn't outgoing and bold and aggressive in seeking people out. I understand that completely because that's how I am too. When I see someone at the park that I think is cool, hey, what's your name on Facebook? Let's hang out. I mean, that's me. And that's great. But it's been so freeing for me to relax my default of chasing the friend who isn't reciprocating quite as much and instead save my amazing energy for people who really want it. And I'm not saying that with any shade at all. See, number 6, the best way to find mom friends, guys, is simply be the friend you want to attract. Be the friend you want to attract. Be the person who checks in when your friend has had a rough week or is stressed at work or someone passed away. Bring them dinner. Be the friend who remembers the dates that only good friends remember. Be the friend who listens, who isn't just coming to the friendship with, I need. Like me, I need a best friend. I want to be in the cool club. I want that. What about just being the friend who listens and who isn't trying to suck everyone dry, but is there to show up and be your most authentic and gorgeous self? The best way to find mom friends is simply be the friend you want to attract. And I'll talk more about that next week, along with the exact places and steps. Steps! Yeah, I have steps to find the mom friends you want at every stage of motherhood. I'll see you then. Whew. All right, episode 3. Whew. It is hot in here. I'm like sweating. All right, the podcast you've been waiting for. How do I find mom friends? Ding, 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 you're here. Part 3 of this mom friendship series. I'm sharing how to find good mom friends And I'm not stopping there. I'm sharing how to find good mom friends at every stage of motherhood, okay? It's the age-old question. How do you find mom friends? I have clients who have come to me literally working on this exact thing right now. I'm in a new place, or I just started staying home with the kids. How do I find friends? Where do I go? What do I do? It's not just you. It's not just me, guys. A lot of people have this question. So I want to thank you for being here. If you haven't listened to the first 2 parts of this series, go back and cycle through. I think you will really, really like them. And I'm not going to repeat or go back over anything I've talked about. I'm just going to keep going. So I'm Janie Porter. I'm so glad you're here. I'm a mom of 4 kids. I'm a wife to my husband, who we've been together since I was like 14. It's crazy. We're not part of any weird cult or anything. I just know what I like, and I saw what I liked at 14, and here we are, 20 years later. Can you believe that? No, 20 years since we got married. Anyway, because no, I'm not 34. I'm 40. Okay, this is not, math isn't my specialty, as you can see. So I'm a life coach, and I'm a writer, and I work one-on-one with middle-aged women across the country, helping them figure out what living a life of joy and purpose really looks like. And there's so many chapters in motherhood and in life that are dark and slow and boring, and you're stuck in the mud. And I help you get unstuck, because you still have a spark. You are still that person inside. And I help you find it again. And it's just so much fun. I love my job so much. So I literally have a post on my site, shejustglows.com. It's literally called How to Find Mom Friends. And I wrote it several years ago. And in this podcast, I'm going to go way deeper than I do in that post. Guys, I got to let you in on something before I go into all the steps and all the chapters and all the here, there, everywhere, what to do, who, what, when, where, why. Here's the bottom line. And if you get nothing else out of this episode, I want you to hear me. Finding mom friends is really about being the friend you want to attract. I have personally practiced this, and it works flawlessly. And I'll dive into all of that in this episode. And that's not to say that I have an abundance of friendships. I don't have that many close friends in my city, as I've shared in the first 2 parts of this 3-part mom friendship series. It's been a journey for me. And I've come to realize and come to walk into a knowledge that not having a, quote, best friend actually serves me really well. And there's more on that in episode 10, the episode right before this one. I really hope that you check that out if you haven't already. So let's start with a breakdown of the chapters of mom life friendships, because they do change. And I found this really interesting as I sort of lived this out. The friends that you have when you're a baby, they change. They change. So let me explain. When your kids are babies, the morning play date is the event of your day. You are getting up and back timing so that you get to the park play date, or you get to your friend's house, or you get to somewhere where the kid's going to get their energy out. And usually that person, the other mom, is someone you actually like, because babies don't know who they're playing with. They don't care. So you're actually seeking out people in that phase of motherhood who are literally just other cool moms, just like you. And you're hanging out for the morning play date. You go home for the nap. Maybe you meet another friend out at the park later. So, and this is like when your oldest is a baby, because as you know, when the oldest is then a toddler, the baby's just trailing along, the later kids, right? So the baby years, it's all about the park, the play groups, and you're sort of like dating for mom friends, right? Because the babies don't care. The babies don't know the difference. So the toddler age, and again, this is like when your oldest is a toddler, you just kind of graduate from the baby phase. Whoever you were hanging out with in the baby phase, you're probably sticking with them for the toddler phase. You might have another baby coming into the group. Maybe you had your second kid, and you're still kind of doing the same thing. You're doing the morning play date. You might be going somewhere more often, like, I don't know, the Children's Museum or the water park. And then some toddlers, you might have some toddlers and some school-age kids, right? So like you're getting a little older. And then you have all school-age kids. This is where I'm at now. So here's what that looks like. First of all, by this point, most of your baby and toddler mom friends have either moved away or they're at a different elementary school. This is the case for me, maybe not for you. But where I live, a lot of people go to private school. We go to public school. Some people have moved since the baby years and they're just in different geographical places. And that's the thing about the baby and toddler mom friend years. You're going to be friends with someone who probably lives in your neighborhood or within like 5 square miles, because it's all about, let's go to the park right by our house. We'll get home for lunch and naps, and maybe we'll meet later too, right? So proximity is important in those early years, especially, at least I've found. Another great activity I loved doing in those years was like toddler story time at the library. So by the time all your kids are school aged, well, now it's getting a little more complicated because your kids actually have opinions about who they're playing with, right? Your kids have friends. And your friends from when the kids were toddlers moved away or they go to different schools. And those kids and your kids, it might really turn out that they're really not friends, because even though they played when they were babies and toddlers, they don't do the same stuff now. Your kids play football, they do gymnastics. Your kids are more like mild-mannered, and the other kids are rowdy and obnoxious, and you don't want to be around them, right? So as the kids grow, the kids become their own people. And a lot of times they're different from, the little lumps of cuteness that they were when they were babies. So your kids and those kids really aren't true friends. So it's no longer really your close friends or your people that you're going to be hanging out with quite as much. You tracking with me here? Baby and toddler years, those are the people you chose, right? You were like, hey, you seem cool. Our oldest are the same age. Let's hang out for a few years, right? So then in my experience, that chapter closes because the kids either aren't into each other when they're older, or you moved away. Even if you moved a few neighborhoods away, or the friend moved a few neighborhoods away, it totally changes everything, right? And you might be listening saying, no, that's not the case for me at all. I guess I'm just sharing my own experience. That's all I got, right? So when you have the school age kids, it's no longer about hanging out with your close friends. By then, you probably have more kids and more activities. So it's really, those years have very little to do with connecting with your friends. In the baby years, you see a friend every day or two. And I'm talking about, I was a stay-at-home mom. So I realized if you're working, you're like, what are you talking about, play dates? I didn't get to do any of that, or I didn't want to do any of that. So I realized that what I'm talking about is sort of a microcosm. But if you're tracking with me here, keep going. So in the school age years, you're barely seeing your own friends because your kids aren't friends anymore. You don't live near each other anymore, maybe. You might do a girls' night like every month or so, or you see them at church, but you're not like doing life together anymore. Life is more complex now. Your kids are older. And the people that you end up seeing a lot in the school age years are, you guessed it, the parents of your kids' friends. Now, being as though they're at school all day, I'm not picking their friends out for them. They're saying, oh, this mom seems cool. Why don't you be friends with Jack, So what happens is you hope and pray that your kids choose cool friends who have cool parents. So for us, every day after school, we meet at the park with a group of parents and kids, and we have a really awesome group of school friends. All of these parents aren't really people that I hang out with one-on-one necessarily, although I'd love to. It's really just our kids are friends and it's a cool group. And it's a great phase. I don't feel that I'm missing anything by not having a friend that I see every day like I did in the play date years. So I wish someone had explained this to me early on, because I didn't realize that as my kids grow up, my friendships would change. What was convenient no longer is. What did work with one kid no longer works with 4. What did work when kids were in the preschool years or in the baby years just isn't feasible when we're now going to school every day. So know that if your friendships are changing with each stage, there's nothing wrong with you. This is totally normal. And it makes sense, right? Okay, so how do you make friends in these stages? I have a few ideas that I'll share for each chapter, okay? first and foremost, you've got to get out there. There's no other way. Like, don't sit around at home. Don't join the Facebook groups and do that. But also you have to get out there. You have to leave your house, put your shoes on, go meet people. It's just what you have to do. In the baby and toddler years, I was that person. Like, I was so obnoxious. Something I firmly believe about anything in life, but it really applied to me when I went from full-time TV news reporter and then a day later had a kid early and was home with him full-time by my choice. And I wanted to do that. But I found that I suddenly was in a life where I had 0 peers. I didn't know a single person who was home with their kid. I barely knew any moms. I was coming from my TV news world of young professionals who were just living to work. Literally, in one day, I have a kid, I'm staying home with him, and I'm just like, who are my people? I don't have any people. What do I do? It was so confusing. It was so weird. So wherever you're at in life, something that I firmly believe, everyone needs peers. Everyone needs peers. When you go back to work, like me right now, I've been home with my kids for 10 years. I just recently, in the last month, started coming to this office. Just so nice. I get so much more done here because I don't get interrupted every 5 minutes. I realize I need peers. I need people in my life who are in the exact same chapter as me, people who work outside of the home and their kids are in elementary school, right? So no matter where you are, try to find your peers. I have a client who her only mom friends work full-time and she doesn't. Well, guess what? You got to find different friends. You got to find people who are your peers. Not that you're dropping the other people, but you need people in your same phase of life. It's a must. So I was ruthless about finding peers in those baby and toddler years. I mean, I would go to the park. I probably tried to look cute. I probably did my makeup so obnoxious, that person with one kid and a 6-month-old baby. And I'm just like, hey, hi, what's your name? I mean, I was just ruthless about meeting people. I knew that I had to put myself out there. So I'd go to the park and I'd be like, hey, what's your Instagram? Actually, back then, we didn't have Instagram. I was probably asking for your Facebook or your cell phone. I went to the hospital's breastfeeding support group. Met a bunch of ladies there. You can also join a MOPS group near you. Great place to meet women. Go to a Bible study to meet women. Join your local community's Facebook group. It's basically like you're dating because you don't really know who are you as a mom. When you first start the mom journey, who are you? You don't know. Are you the preppy mom? Are you the hippie mom? Are you the co-sleeping mom? You don't know till you try it, right? So as you're exploring and going through that really awkward first year or two where you're like, I don't know, if I'm the chill, relaxed mom or if I really need to do those stringent nap times and have a schedule. I don't know if I'm the organic, make your own baby food mom or if that was just some silly idea I had when I was working full time and bored and pregnant and Googling on my laptop thinking I'd have all this time. You're still evolving. And as a result, it might take time to zero in on who your peers really are and what type of parent you are and who you'll gel with. And be patient with yourself in that time because it doesn't happen overnight. And it does take living out this new life as a mom and figuring out what your preferences are and how you really do approach motherhood. Because that's really important when you're trying to find peers. In the school age years, the way that you meet friends is, invite the team over to your house for pizza after the soccer game. Join the PTA. Or if you don't, like me, actually I joined the PTA, but I've never been to a meeting. Just so happens all my close friends are all on the board. So I always know what's going on, but I don't really do much myself. So if you don't want to join the PTA or go to the meetings, here's an idea. If you can, park your car when you get your kids from school. Walk in if you have that option. I mean, Carline makes it so hard to meet anyone, even the teachers. Walking up to get your kids from school gives you more context. And I love that as a really special face-to-face time with my kids. Maybe your school doesn't allow that though. Maybe COVID stopped that and stopped so much personal connection. I feel for you if you have started your motherhood journey post 2020. This is a different universe now. And it was so hard to have personal connection for so long. I'm sure you're starving for it now. So get out there. Meet people at the park. Get to know your neighbors. You know what we did one time? We literally wanted to get to know our neighbors. So I left a flyer on like 10 houses on our street, our side and the other side of the street, right? And I said, we're going to be grilling hot dogs in our front yard on Saturday afternoon. Come on down, bring your own beverage. I got to tell you guys, we had everyone come down. People crave human contact, and when it's set up for them, it's so much better for them, right? Do it. What do you have to lose? One time my kids were playing in the front yard at our house, and being as though we have 4 kids, I think most houses on the block know, oh, that's the crazy house with all the kids and the dirt bikes in the front yard all the time. I had one gal come over and say, hey, she got off her golf cart, walked up and said, my son needs kids to play with. I'm Delilah. What's your name? You know, we got to know each other. And now her son comes over almost daily to play with my kids. And what it took was her being bold and assertive and just saying, hey, that's a mom with a bunch of kids who lives down the block. I'm going to go say hi. I've been wanting to for a while. I'm just going to do it today. Host a swim party for your kids' class after the last day of school. Go to the birthday parties. I mean, I hate going to kids' birthday parties all weekend long, and I have a pretty firm boundary with that. If the parent's cell phone number does not already exist in my phone, it's probably going to be a no on whether we can go. Because can you imagine 4 kids, all the birthday parties they get invited to? We're not always able to go to each one. And I talk more about that in another podcast episode. It's called You're Overwhelmed Because You Have No Plan, The Art of Controlling Your Calendar. So get out there. In the teenage years, we'll see, I don't have teenagers. My oldest is 10. So I asked you on the She Just Glows Instagram community, I said, hey, teenage parents, how do you meet friends? And here's what you said. Make friends on the sidelines. You're sitting watching games a lot, so you talk to people there. You're watching and waiting. There's a lot of picking up, taking, dropping off. Use that time to talk and meet people. And then a lot of you teenage parents said, I don't have time to meet friends. We are so busy as a family. So again, rewriting that prerequisite of what a happier, good life looks like doesn't need to have a best friend or a close friend circle that has been around for decades. That may not be the step-by-step of your thriving, beautiful life. So some of the things that I just mentioned might work, they might not. You may not want to do some of that stuff. You might be pretty shy. You might hate reaching out to people. 2 things I want to suggest if you are shy. The first thing is utilize those online groups to meet people and get comfortable. And when they post a park meetup or some sort of meetup, go, because you've met them already online. Warm yourself up to the idea of meeting them in person. The other thing you can do is if you have one person who you know kind of well, who's going to some of these things, just say, hey, Sarah, I know you're pretty outgoing. I'm not. Can I come with you to some of these meetups? Of course, she would love for you to come with her. So those are 2 things I would do if you're not the super assertive personality. And it does take a lot of assertiveness to find people these days, doesn't it? So if you've tried all of that and it's not working, here's what I want you to do. Let go. Breathe. Relax. The people who are supposed to be in your life will be put in your life. And know that if someone has been taken out of your life, there's a reason for that too. Trust the process. Don't cling too tightly to your friendships. So here's what I did, especially in those baby and toddler years. I felt like I was chasing people at the park, getting their Facebook, getting their text. And then it just kind of fizzled out, or I didn't really make a connection. I really made my best connections as a young mom in our MOPS group and at Bible study. Those were the pillars of my week where I had fellowship with women who shared my same core values, and we evolved into beautiful friends, and we still get together every month or two for dinner. But here's what I finally said I was going to do. I finally said, I'm going to just be the friend I want to attract. Instead of focusing on what I can get, I'm going to focus on what I can give. Instead of looking for a friend who comforts you on the bad days and checks in with loving texts, be the friend who does that. It may sound kind of corny, but I always think of that JFK quote, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. That's how I approach friendship. Ask not what you can get from a new friend. Ask what you can give. Be the friend you want to attract. That's it, guys. I hope you have a great day. Ooh, my voice is hoarse now.